I'm Dorothy Rowe, and the video you're about to watch is a clip from a live webinar. If you enjoy the content of this video, please like and subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments. Thank you. Downloads come in the 2 weeks prior to our webinar, and one of the most delightful ones has to do with the mechanics of how the healing process occurs in a kind of general way. So I'd like to just describe that to you now. We know that there's this principle that sometimes I call the divine dialogue. If you're not sure, please make a note of the minutes here. This is where we want to put a tag to divine dialogue from the knowledge base. But divine dialogue is a word that I just use to describe this eternal story, the eternal process of one wholeness. And I'm using my backdrop again as kind of like a map, a navigational map. We've got most physical material at the top and subtle, 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 and then the source of creation down at the base. And so the one, source of creation at the base, behind everything, the foundation of everything, it's like a fountainhead, and it rises up constantly, just constantly effulgent flow of creative intelligence and resource and energy and all that's good is kind of emerging from the source of creation. And then what happens is, as it emerges, it takes the shape, it assumes the form of the creation. It assumes this, dawns the garb of the universe. And then, having created this expressed field of manifestation, it enters into it. And we could say, well, the cycle is that one becomes many and then it returns to one. And that's basically what's happening. One becomes many and then becomes one. But that last part of how the one gets from the many back to the one, like that's the important part. Because corruption, like suffering of any kind whatsoever, it exists because that particular area or that particular expression of the material field hasn't fully become fully integrated with the one. And it occurred to me that when the one creates the creation and then it finds itself in the creation, because the one is actually present at every single detailed point of the entire diverse universe. That's like a kind of spiraling process. So it emerges out, and then like the universe is created, and then it spirals back in, and it integrates, and it connects into all the detailed expressions of its own nature. So when it's one, you could say it's like kind of like an overview. It understands itself as an overview, as a wholeness. It knows itself as a wholeness. But then it creates a diverse universe, and then it understands itself as many. But then as the many, it understands itself as one within the many. It understands the one and the many completely unified, completely integrated together. And that process of integration is a spiraling process. So that was one of the insights. I know it's kind of simple, but it sort of changes the landscape a little bit, because before we thought, oh, it starts here, it goes up to here, and it comes back to here. But now the picture looks different. It starts here, it goes up to here, and then it goes psss, and it spirals in at every point, every point, every point, every point in this manifest field. It's different. It's a slightly different vision. It's a slightly different way of perceiving the process of integration of wholeness at every point. Why a spiral? Because wholeness becomes sort of immersed or embedded in the relative at finer, 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 finer degrees. You've heard me talk about this with regards to this sort of mathematical formula where you have a number, and the number is trying to get back to zero. So first you cut it in half, and then you cut it in half again, and then you cut it in half again and again and again. And you can keep cutting that number in half again, again, again. but you'll never get back to zero, right? And this process of the integration of wholeness into the material level of creation is a little bit like that, that the degree, because there's so much awareness, that wholeness or totality is so imbued with being, with pure awareness in its most fundamental form is so rich, it's infinite, it's infinitely thick, it's infinitely rich, it's infinitely profound, that it can go in finer and finer, any one point, kind of like science, you know, scientists will go in and, you know, they start by studying the whole field, like geology, but then they go into a specific area of geology, and then in that specific area, they do research on a specific part like that. It's like that, you know, it just goes in finer, until it reaches infinity. And when it reaches infinity, it's come home. But at the point that it reaches infinity, it's like the parts and the wholeness. The parts and the wholeness, they are so integrated, right? That the aspect of the parts for which we as humans are responsible, I'm seeing, thanks to the light of our group, there comes a point where that's not, either it's not necessary or we have to rewrite our role. Because the part that humans are responsible for is experiencing reality as new. We experience like we don't know what's coming next. Wholeness knows the whole story from the beginning to the end of creation. But as humans, we're just like now, and then we don't know what happens next. Just like me in these webinars. I don't know. but I'm grateful to be with you, and I'm grateful for your light, and I'm grateful for the understanding that comes from us all looking together and realizing that there's a point of integration of consciousness with matter where, and I think this also happens in the awakening of human awareness, and this, maybe this is why this is coming up in today's session, the way that humanity steps into its own greatness, the way we imbibe our pure potential, is that we step into that place where consciousness and matter are so well integrated that our experience is that we can still enjoy the moment, but the surprises aren't, let's say, they don't come up and hit us in the back of the head anymore, if that makes sense. For instance, on Monday, I did a remote healing session, and the whole remote healing session was focused in, a lot of people may be getting that report tonight, by the way. The whole session was focused in on the relationship between the individual body and the cosmic body, and particularly on the south node of the moon. Well, I didn't know it. I should be keeping up on these things, but I wasn't. And it turns out that on Wednesday, there was an eclipse. But at the time I did the healing session, I didn't know that. But it's very interesting that there was a part, when I went in to do the healing session, there was a part of me that was, that like intuitively knew that we had to do make these adjustments. We had to bring awareness into the finer levels, and we had to make some refinements so that everybody's path through between the two eclipses, which is where we are now. There's an eclipse on Wednesday, and then 2 weeks later, that's a lunar, and then 2 weeks later is a solar eclipse. That any time that we're between two eclipses, it's like a very kind of delicate time. It's a time when these cosmic aspects of creation, the north and south nodes of the moon, who are great teachers, the great teachers, are, I'd say, active, awakened in our experience. And the thing about the north and south nodes of the moon is that they show themselves at the eclipse. They reveal themselves. Otherwise, they're kind of like invisible. Sounds familiar? We're starting to think about that really dark energy, that really dark, corrupt energy, right? It's like it's out there and it's scary, but you can't see it. So that makes it extra scary, right? So north and south nodes of the moon are a little bit like that. The other thing about them is the moon reveals what's hidden in the darkness, right? Even in the full moon can be full and very bright. You look up, it's very bright, but you look around and it still shows nighttime around you. So this nature of the moon to reveal the darkness and reveal what's hiding in the darkness. The thing about the north and south nodes of the moon is they see those hidden aspects of the darkness that you can't see, that you're missing. Well, they see all of them. They see the ones that you see, they see the ones that you don't see, but as teachers, that aspect, and remember, I'm talking about the north and south nodes of the moon as if there's something outside of us, but they're really not, because we find them within us. And the reason that I'm talking about them in this way at this moment is because both the seed of the problem, of the negativity, and the solution are found in each one of our personal relationships with these particular cosmic forms. They're responsible for like the harshest lessons. I'm looking out also into the field of the entire collective, because it looks like the collective also needs this healing. It's an integration. We need to, what I want everyone to do, oh, I'm asking you to do something. Usually you just get to sit back and eat your dinner and lounge in your pajamas, but no, unless of course you're in Bali and then you're getting ready for your day, but you're eating your breakfast and lounging in your pajamas perhaps. But anyway, no, I'm gonna ask you to do something, which is that we're gonna find that aspect of the north and south nodes of the moon within the field of our consciousness. It's very simple. We put the attention on the north and south nodes of the moon. That's all. The place where they show themselves at the eclipses. They reveal. Their bodies are seen at the eclipses. They're considered the head and tail of the dragon. The north moon is the head and the south moon is the tail. And the head burns you. It brings lessons that are fiery and burning, and the south one cuts. This one also has sharp teeth, but this one really slashes and steals. It takes things away. It takes away anything. They both want you to grow spiritually. So they'll take away or destroy whatever it is that's blocking your spiritual progress and growth. When we find them, we're feeling into what is that stroke of my consciousness? What is that region? What is that region of the ocean of my being that is the consciousness of the north and south nodes? Think of it like it's like a dragon. It's thought of like a dragon or a snake or something. It sees all the secrets. It sees all the details. It's almost like the polar opposite of the value that humanity brings to creation. Because here again, I'm just riding on your light here, because I had not seen this before, but the value that humanity brings to the creation is that we have nervous systems that experience the sequential unfoldment of time. And as such, we get surprised and we learn new things, we learn lessons, we can be delighted, right? Jokes, like there wouldn't be a pun if you knew what was coming at the end of the sentence, right? So So puns are so inherently human. They lead you down the path, and just when you get to the end, it goes, whoop, it shifts on you. It's like, oh, it's a different ending than I was expecting. So beautiful. Humans are so beautiful. But the quality of our consciousness that associates with the north and south nodes of the moon is that ability to see what's hidden, to see what's buried, to see the secret, to know secrets. Secrets. The corruption in the individual and collective body cannot hurt you if you see it. If you see it coming, we can say if you see it coming. If you know it ahead of time, then you can self-position to avoid it. I am feeling an interesting shifting taking place in the heart energy center, sort of at the upper edge, like at the upper edge of the chakra. So the chakras are about so big, right? And then the heart energy center is like this whole chest area. And then it's like kind of just up here and slightly on the left. That's where I'm feeling it. Feels like a download of information, how to integrate all knowing and seeing what's hidden in the darkness and receiving access, having access to all the secrets, and at the same time enjoying life innocently and blissfully. So many pieces are tying together in my mind. I'm trying to think of like the best way to bring this forward. The most painful manifestation of corruption is a narrative that's been with humanity for centuries. I mean, we can look back to the story of Christ, I think, as an example, that it's the story of innocence being destroyed by malevolence. The negativity is so terrible, and it's so powerful, and it's so crude, and it's so cruel that it goes in and it isolates out those individuals that are the most innocent, and it destroys them, right? Because Christ, he was so good. His whole life was just being so good to everybody, right? And a lot of the links that people and videos that people sent, they reference these things, and these groups who do terrible things to children and so on and so on. I mean, we know that some of that stuff is real. I mean, there are, I think they call pedophilia rings, and we've made reference to things like that, some very dark things that happen on this earth. Even just child abuse, it's very dark. It's a very dark thing. But we consider it very dark, and it kind of hurts the heart to look at it, because innocence in its universal form, as it exists within all of us, right? If you hear a story of a little child getting hurt, it hurts you, right? Because there's a part of you that's like a child, right? That identifies with the little child. That innocence is the aspect of the field of awareness that it not only represents that part of human nature that allows us to go through life with a sequential unfoldment of experience and going, oh, something happened, I wasn't expecting it, right? Like there's some innocence there. But also, this is very important, it is that aspect of consciousness that allows us to return to the source of creation. It's that aspect of consciousness that allows us to transcend the fascination, and you could say the grip of the material experience of creation, to get past that and to see the divine in the material level of expression. Innocence does it, because in order to get past the distractions that are presented. And, you know, this is where I'm drawing upon one of the videos I watched, a very sort of famous man who, you know, addresses topics like this. And his point was, it's kind of like the Western paradigm that's the source of the corruption. You know, it's kind of, and I mean, we can see it, we can follow in, and we can see how, like, each of the different areas, right? And whether it's the media or politics or education or medicine or business, the whole financial world. I mean, there's corruption and all we can identify, but those, again, from my perspective, those are symptoms. And that the corruption comes from that moment when whichever area we're looking at, if we're looking at media or finance or whatever, that the details of it are so overwhelming to the senses that we lose that innocent ability to find totality in that expression of human intelligence and collective construction. It's like a cultural or social construction that we've made as a collective. And again, right now we're clearing a little bit this belief that, well, because the collective made it, that makes it super powerful, somehow more powerful than me. It's easy for me to get gripped by it because I'm just a little individual and that thing out there is very big and it's collective. No. Because our consciousness, you as an individual, you as one human being among 8.8 billion, if that's about where we're at right now on our earth, your consciousness knows no bounds. It knows no limit in creation. Your consciousness can embrace the entire universe. It can even go beyond the universe, and it can embrace it can hold that space which just is. Right? So it doesn't matter if our culture or our society has created these big structures, you know, big structures, corruption has gotten inside them. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if the big structures present themselves to you like every time you turn on your computer or your television or pick up a news article or anything, which is what they do, right? We see them. This is where we find the expressions of corruption. It's still possible to walk the path of innocence that reveals the divine origins within the structures. It doesn't matter how big they are. Even if they're alien worlds or whatever, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We are bigger. This is part of what our growth process is about, is recognizing, I want to circle back to the nodes of the moon here, but that part of that process is recognizing that when we find any aspect of creation within the field of our own consciousness, we're literally recognizing and nurturing and identifying that aspect of the cosmic body, which is also part of our body. As individuals, we're like taste buds on the end of the tongue, right? We're each a taste bud. But the taste bud doesn't say, oh, I'm not the body, right? It may say, oh, I'm a taste bud. But, but it's also, you know, if the body loses one taste, have you ever had one taste bud like swell up and become uncomfortable? The whole body feels it all day. The body's like, oh, my little taste bud, right? My little taste bud, it's so uncomfortable. And the taste bud, if anything happens to the body anywhere in the body, the taste bud's like, oh, my body. So it's not separate, nothing's separate. It's all connected together. The cosmic body is our body. And the suffering that comes from a dysfunctional relationship with the north and south nodes of the moon, this can be healed. This can be healed. It doesn't matter where those structures are placed in relation to your natal chart. For example, if we're talking astrology here, it doesn't matter, because the natal chart is a map of the material relative level of creation at the moment of birth, right? But in energy healing, we're diving down underneath that relative material expression. That's the whole principle here. We're diving inside, and we're using our consciousness to affect life-supporting changes, because our consciousness, or our pure awareness, is the home of all the laws of nature, including the laws that counteract destruction. So let's go back to that download that was coming into the heart, because that was coming in right when we were doing the healing for our relationship with north and south nodes of the moon. And I think there's something there that could be unpacked a little bit. And by the grace of your light, by the grace of your beautiful light, we can do that. By the grace of the light of the north and south nodes of the moon, we can do that. We are all together. There is this moment, this is me unpacking. There is this moment right now where we know what it feels like to sit in this webinar and have the light of many, of awareness filtering through many nervous systems at the same time. There's a feel to that. We don't have, once you know the feel, once you know that sensation, that energy signature, sometimes I call it, the energy signature or sensation, it sits down here at the very subtlest level of the field of consciousness. Once we identify or recognize that feeling of, oh, many nervous systems are flowing this light, focusing it on this particular topic, which is bringing the relationship with the north and south modes of the moon back into a functional relationship that really, really serves the highest values of experience and really helps us feel, provides the resources required to navigate life in a way that the quality of life is at the highest dignity and grace and comfort and appropriateness, dharma. This is me, I'm saying the seed, right? This is the seed of the healing. I'm turning that heater off again. It's really cold in Iowa right now. We have volcanoes going off all over the earth right now. It's pulling the temperatures down. That seed of what it feels like to be in a group where all the nervous systems act like filters through which the awareness flows to support the illumination of understanding, that seed can be drawn upon even when you're alone. You guys are showing me this right now. Why? Because I know, and this is in the heart, this is in the heart. I know that most of us, all of us, are multidimensional beings. All of us are doing many things at the same time. And at any given moment, any one of us is giving some portion of our love and creative intelligence to support the overarching efforts of the source of creation to promote evolution at a cosmic level, right? So, okay, so the universe is evolving, and some part of us is busy with our own personal evolution, and I'm taking care of me and myself, me, myself, and I. But some part of us is always taking care of the bigger flow of evolution too. And if you're a mom, or if you're somebody who acts with devotion, which I know almost all of you guys are, then we know that as individuals, part of the thrust of individual flow of intelligence or awareness at any point is for individuality, but part of it is for universality. Part of it is for the collective. So that means that at any given moment, there are probably millions or billions of people. Because think of all the people who are not using 100% of the potential of their mental capacity, right? Most people are using what they say 5 to 10%, just that little surface bit. So what's happening with the rest? Well, some of it is going to support cosmic evolution. So what that means is when we have the seed, we have a feeling of what that is to be like locked in with the light and support of any individuals who are resourcing cosmic evolution. Then even if we're not in our healing webinar, we have access to that. And believe me, I know consciously, intentionally awareness, and I'm sure a lot of you guys too, that I'm working always for the sake of the betterment of the whole. And I want you to use that. Any part of me that's out there working for the betterment of the whole, and you could use it to support your ability to navigate the most difficult situations and circumstances, please use that. Please use it, because that's what it's for. And I know I'm not the only one. And I know that individuals who are just drawing on like 5, 10, some small portion of their mental potential, that there's a part of them that also wants to see this world evolve in such a way that a better time is born for humanity, that all the beautiful species on Earth survive, the climate is well, our beautiful Earth is well, right? So accessing that larger resource is like, think of it like a great wellspring or a great body of water or something. It's like a great resource. We all have access to it. So that was what the download was about. It was opening a thread or channel in the astral body so that each one of us can draw upon the light produced by many who are radiant, many radiant souls on our earth. The thing about a healing like that is it works when that purity and innocence in Dharma are so established within one's own nature and within the field of one's own consciousness that there's no question that of course it's used to reveal the secrets that are hidden in the darkness. So what happens with the north and south nodes of the moon? I did not know I was going to talk about those today, by the way. What happens with them? They see areas where your spiritual potential could be better expressed, but is not being better expressed. And they rise up from that deeper level where the seeing is taking place, and they leverage laws of nature that are able to manifest situations and circumstances that give rise to experiences that are uncomfortable, often, usually, so uncomfortable that a person is like driven. They're driven in. They're driven to find a solution. Driven to find a solution. All of a sudden, all the things that were important or all the irons that you had in the fire become irrelevant if you're really struggling or you're really suffering and you're just like, just get me to the solution, right? When there's pain or something or like really intense anger. And the thing about the north and south nodes of the moon is they're not inclined to bring the experience in a slow, gradual, gentle, like Saturn will do that. Saturn likes to build structure slowly, but the north and south nodes of the moon, like they just want to hit you as hard and fast as they can to just sort of like jog a person into waking up a little bit. So honoring and recognizing down, bring our awareness down, down, down. Back to that point we were looking at earlier when I was saying, find the nodes of the moon within your own awareness. And what we do is we find the nodes of the moon is we offer appreciation for the power and spiritual nature of their teachings, of their offering to us as humans. And offering reverence and gratitude and appreciation helps to heal the relationship. And as the relationship is starting to heal, what I'm seeing is going back through time, not just this lifetime, but in the astral body. So going back through ancestral memories and also individual memories, multiple lifetimes, of all those moments when your lessons came up and hit you in the back of the head real hard enough to make you face plant. All those times, all those times, all those times. And what I'm seeing is a lot of discordant feelings are rolling out of the system. These discordant feelings have been locked in the system for centuries because they're all this time, the belief had been locking them in, and the belief was that wasn't fair. That was not okay. That was not right. I didn't deserve that. I mean, you probably didn't deserve it really, because we all are sitting here ready to learn our lessons, right? Right? Like we're all here like please bring the lessons. I want to learn them. I'm here. I'm open. Like I'm doing my best. And then nature's like, oh, you missed something, face plant. And it's like, but wait a minute. That's my father used to call it, oh, well, it had a swear word in it, but it was the dip lesson, right? Because God's bringing you a lesson and the lesson is dip, right? But it's like, well, what was that lesson? Like, what am I learning from this face plant? I have mud on my face and so, yeah, right. This is to avoid all of such lessons moving forward. All lessons. Now, that's a lesson of the past. That's a lesson that's appropriate when awareness isn't as awake as it is now. We as a collective, now I'm just looking. Now this is the point where we go down to the gap between the manifest and unmanifest, and we feel the shift. And the shift is happening in our whole group, our whole group. And right there is a little, and I'm seeing it really lighting up all three Mahamarmas. If anybody doesn't remember, make a note of the time because we put a tag in here to that from the knowledge base, Mahamarmas. All three Mahamarmas lighting up, particularly the gut Mahamarma, are lighting up. That means the energy is shifting in your microbiome. It's a big shift there because we got lots of gut bacteria going on. I'm just feeling that shifting happening. And this shift is an integration of ego. It's an integration of sense of self. It's rewriting the definition of sense of self to include the wisdom of Rahu and Ketu. Oh, I was going to say north and south nodes of the moon. Sorry, Rahu and Ketu are the Sanskrit terms for the north and south node of the north node, Rahu, south node, Ketu. Yeah, so the north and south nodes of the moon are they're integrating. Our relationship with them has been so complex for so long, for the history of the soul's relationship with the human experience, that it was one of the hardest areas to integrate. It was one of the hardest areas to harmonize, I would say, one's sense of self with these values that would come up from behind. Unknown, they see a little weakness. They're like, I'm not, the weakness is hidden in the darkness. I'm not going to let them see it, and creep up behind it. Boom, face plant. It's like, So it's like, oh, that's me. That's not me. That's not me. I'm a nice person, right? We're all nice people. But there's a law of nature in there. There's a law of nature that this is a fast way. This is a very efficient. There's a kind of putting the dedication to efficiency ahead of comfort, which is basically what's going on there. So now what we're doing is we're putting efficiency of our ability to evolve ahead of the surprise element of the north and south nodes. That efficiency means we integrate our own sense of self with the north and south nodes of the moon, which are part of our cosmic body, to such a fine degree that we see those little elements that are blocking our own spiritual development before we faceplant, before the circumstances can arise that make life so uncomfortable. But we see them when the north and south moon sees that aspect of self, we see that aspect of self all at the same time, because it's really one big cosmic body. This is the healing. And what does that do? It expands sense of self. We redefine ourselves. It's not just like the taste bud. It redefines itself. It's not just this little point on the tongue. It's like the whole body. It's like that tongue, that's also you. And that bone that the tongue muscle is attached to, that's also you, right? And the whole cavity of the mouth is also you. And the taste bud is like, my consciousness can move through that sensitive point of perception, which is the taste bud, and the consciousness can move through the taste buds and it can fill the whole mouth cavity. It can fill the whole space of the mouth. It can fill the whole space of the body. It can fill the whole space of space. Nice, well done.